Oh, it's playing. So I am supposed to record my experiences with body dysmorphic disorder, which I was diagnosed with at which I would say I acquired at 17, but was diagnosed with around 19. I'm recording this for the Body Dysmorphia Foundation because I decided that it was very important for me to utilise my experiences and my recovery as a means of providing, well, hope. I know it sounds quite narcissistic to be possibly saying that, but when I was very ill, my dad and I discussed how there was very little, there were very few examples of people who had recovered from the illness looking back and providing stories of their recovery, tips and insight into how to overcome body dysmorphia episodes and BDD attacks and moments when I think sufferers, and especially myself when I was experiencing extreme distress, especially in these dark moments where there was very little to access in order to ameliorate the symptoms and to alleviate the issues that the sufferers were feeling. I think that stigma is still a very big issue. I think that's almost a cliche to say that, but it's nonetheless true. In young people, men and women, I know that when people discuss mental illness, I know personally that people, well, I can only speak for myself, but I know that I feel a degree of concern that people might look at me and think, you're using this as some sort of talking point, or you're almost showing off, or, oh, we've heard this, or people worry that they're going to make other people uncomfortable. I know somebody once said to me, or rather somebody said to a mutual friend, that it was not okay for me to discuss my issues because other people were still experiencing issues. So it wasn't okay for me to look back and to make jokes at my own expense because other people were still feeling distress. And of course I can understand why people can feel personally, I'm not sure how to describe it, but I can understand why people might feel discomfort, especially if they are in the middle of something, or if they're not in a position where they think that something can be taken lightheartedly, and that's okay because we all deal with things in different ways at different times. I think it's important to note that things do change continuously. One of my favourite bits of advice I was ever given was that life isn't and shouldn't be considered as days and weeks and months and years, but should be considered as a series of moments from one to the next. And it can be a moment as simple as a cup of tea, or a conversation, or a smile you exchange with a stranger or a friend, or anything that can really be the difference between something that's positive or negative. You could have the worst day ever, and then somebody could say, would you like a biscuit? And it seems so pointless, but I think everybody knows and sometimes forgets that the little things are what are important. The little things can build up to become big things in both the negative and positive ways. I'm very good at losing track of where I'm going with things, so what I was saying is that the Body Dysmorphia Foundation and I have been in contact, and they suggested it would be a good idea to document some of my experiences and to discuss my recovery. I'm almost definitely going to be doing this by hand, and actually getting around to writing down things is quite difficult because it's hard to look back and to assimilate everything that's happened without going back into it. But I think it's important because it can be very inspiring for yourself, which I think is very important. It's key to reflect on how far you've come, and for those of you, for people who watch this who have body dysmorphia, which I hope people do, that it's important to remember that each and every day is a new day, and just by being there one day to the next is key, because you've gone from thinking I can't do this, and then you wake up again and you think this is terrible, and then you wake up again, and each and every day you have these moments, these positive moments, little things, big things, both, and there can be some very overwhelming negative experiences. Of course everybody experiences that, but it's all, I think, a frame of mind that's a reflection of several things, insight or a lack of, which I have experienced many times, thinking that things were one way when in reality they were another. I just didn't see it yet. And other very important things like how much I've had to eat, how much I've slept, whether I've discussed my feelings and so forth, and all of this. So in short, I will be writing these things down, but I also think it's a good idea to document these things on tape. I used to make YouTube videos when I was going through recovery as a means of expression and just to sort of do something I wanted to do, but it's very difficult for me to look at myself on camera, which isn't necessarily anything new for anybody, but I think it's important for me to document things on video as well, because it's a step. I think the primary thing is that that I fear and a lot of people fear, especially those with PTSD, is feedback. You don't want people saying negative things about you, but I think it's important to accept that you can't control everybody, and there are, in all things, negative and positive, and that it doesn't really matter. It's the fact that we do things that we want to do, and that's the thing. So I shall make more of these when I remember, and I hope you guys take something from this in one way or the other.